I'm honestly extremely honored to be part of this panel, looking to my right and my left, and I'm thankful to have this opportunity to speak and say a little bit about the YOW program. I'm looking around the room and I notice all the experts are sitting over there. So when I was asked about a month ago to speak, I thought about what can I say, to leave you in a good sense, to understand what we do, how we do it, the type of youth that we work with, and some of the interventions. So I did come up with a little structure, and I'll try to follow my own structure here. So YOW stands for Youth Outreach Workers. This is a provincially funded program by the Ministry of Children and Youth Services. And here in Ottawa, we operate under the Boys and Girls Club. So we're mandated to connect youth to services through outreaching. So outreaching to at-risk youth, at-risk communities, while working through our stages of change model. So trying to help increase their protective factors, decrease the risk factors, and work through positive change through the line of stages of change. Nice mandate, but how do we do that? So 4 points that I'm gonna talk about. Number 1 being, that actually Gore touched a bit about, is relationship building. So investing our time in building relationships with the youth. That's the most important aspect of the work that we do. Without a solid foundation of a relationship, we're not gonna get to any great results of our interventions. The way I look at it was simply explained to me a long time ago. Right, you open up a bank account. If you wanna pay your rent, you gotta start putting money in your bank account. Groceries, you gotta put more money in your bank account. You have a youth, you wanna do some work, you gotta invest your time. So time in this situation is the money in the bank. So you gotta keep putting your time in it, building that relationship. So when a situation does happen, when there is a crisis, when there's a concern that you need to address, well, guess what? You invested your time. You can start withdrawing from that. And that's something that I try to do in my day and in my work, is invest my time into building that. I mean, when you think about your teachers and coaches back in high school, the ones that you remember, the ones that you felt that you belonged to and you really enjoyed, is the ones that you had a good, strong relation with that teacher, with that coach, with that youth worker. So that's something to look at. Number 2 is what we touched based on, is outreaching. So outreaching to at-risk youth and at-risk communities. We're trying to get to the youth that are not connected. So they're not connected to multiple different programs. They're probably the ones that are not doing well in school, if they're in school, falling through the gaps, and then the transitional age that Dr. Farrington touched based on, so the 18, 19, 20. So they're no longer considered youth, and now they're adults in our system, and we know that the services completely change. So that's the type of youth that we try to connect to while we're outreaching, and more in detail, street outreaching. We had a young lady referred to us by the Ottawa police. Before this lady was referred to us, they tried to refer to different service providers, but she rejected that, and she did not want to do any work. Based on she did not know them, she did not have any relationship with them or contact. So a YOW worker and an officer knocked on the door. The young lady opens the door. YOW worker does not know this girl yet, but this girl happened to recognize her and says, "Hey, I know you." Conversation continues on. You find out that she knew her because she saw the YOW worker outreaching in the community, in the park, and talking to her friends. So she knew her through her friends. She agreed to do some work, and in this case, they did some really good work. But how did that happen? It happened because this young lady felt that she had a connection to the YOW worker through her friends. She valued their opinion, obviously. She said, if my friends are okay with you, I'm okay with you. Which touches back to my first point, relationships. Because there was somewhat of a connection, she agreed to do some work. Through outreach, that connection happened. A point that stands out, and I know my supervisor said that to us quite often, is that when you're outreaching and you're connecting with youth, you might be connecting with other youth that you don't know you connected with at that time, which what I just explained. Third point I'm touching on is ongoing case management. So luckily for us in our program, we don't officially have to close any files. We meet the kid, we meet the family, and they're with us as long as they're around, as long as they agree to continue working with us, as long as we continue seeing them in the communities that they live in and when we work in. We do have some files that have timelines that we have to close, so some of our files that come from diversion, and those files, we have to meet the timeline within 3 months, within 4 months, and close them and send them, which that's what we do with diversion. But with us, we continue that relationship, that working relationship, if the client does agree to continue doing that. I have a young man who's about 21 now, been working with him for 6 years. When I first started working with him, it was all about employment, right? We got him a job at the pizza store, he's no longer there. Got him a job at the movies, he's no longer there. And the corner store, and he's no longer there. Like, he can't keep a job. I ran into him in outreach and said, hey, what's going on? What's happening? Why do you keep leaving these jobs? And this is the words that he was using. You can tell he was used to a lot of service providers and the words. He says, Omar, I've exhausted all my resources in the west end of Ottawa. I need a job in the east. And I'm not lying, this is what he said. So yeah, it's so funny. It's funny at the time. But smart, he's really smart, because find out what the real problem was, is that when he was working at the pizza store, his friends from the neighborhood would come, and they want free pizza. And yeah, he gives them free pizza. They come to the movies, they want to get them for free. Of course, it's his boys, he's gonna let them in for free. So he got fired from the pizza store, got fired from there, and to him is, if I go work in the east, my friends are not there. Smart. When you look at it, when you look at the risk assessment and all the tools that we have, this is more issues than just employment, right? He did not care that what he was doing was illegal. What mattered to him is when he went back to the community, when he went back to his friends, he still belonged. So the notion of him, this is what I gotta do to be accepted, is what he was doing. Unfortunately, I'm still seeing this young man, but he's selling drugs now. So why do I share a story? You're like, oh, this is not a great intervention. Well, sure. But not everything that we do turns out to be great. And this is some stuff that we gotta work with. But what's great about the situation is that 6 years later, we're still seeing him. He's still open to us. We know what he's doing. He knows what we know what he does. And when time does happen, maybe when he is 22, 25, when a situation changes in his life and he wants that help, we're there for it. A last one, because I'm going on too long here, is connecting youth to services. So for that to happen, we need to make referrals. And we try to stay away from making referrals for the sake of making referrals. They have to be meaningful referrals for the service provider, for the youth themselves. So how do we do that? I mean, we sit on a number of different tables, a number of different networks, and many people in this room sit on those tables, and we try to get to know what the programs are, and if that youth is going to fit. And every refer has to be customized to what the youth is. So some of them are simply okay with just getting an address and a phone number and going there. But others, you have to sit down and walk them through what it looks like when they walk into the building. Maybe you need to go with them, maybe you need to make the phone call with them or the email. So it has to change, your approach has to change within every single youth. It can't be all the same. It's not like math where every formula fits every single problem. With youth and with people, we're complex. So that's all I'm gonna say. Thank you.